The setup is... Okay, here we go. One, Amber talking to Becky. They make the telephone call to the agents to send over some actors. Two, enter Reed to audition for Amber. They go at it. Becky watches. Three, Becky goes to the bathroom to jack off. She gets interrupted by Amber. They go at it. Four... Who's Dirk Diggler?
When I close my eyes, I see this thing. It's like this big sign. And the name is in like bright blue neon lights with like purple outline. And this name is just so bright and so sharp that the sign, it just blows up because the name is just so powerful.
Hi, this is Rebecca Martin, and I'm the organizer of the Chicago Film Lover Exchange. This is our podcast for Movie of the Week, and we are going to be talking about Boogie Nights, which is directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and it came out in 1997. So Jeff Brightman, who is our co-organizer, he is going to give us an intro, but also joining us is Chicago Film Lover Exchange member Mira Brady.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Anyways, so Jeff, get us started.
Sure. Just a brief synopsis. Boogie Nights tells the story of a young man named Eddie Adams, played by Mark Wahlberg, who rises from a lowly dishwasher at a nightclub in the San Fernando Valley called Hot Tracks to become rising star of the porno world, Dirk Diggler. Under the tutelage of visionary director Jack Horner, played by Burt Reynolds. The film traces his rise through the late 70s, the heyday of the porn industry's flirtation with popular culture, and goes through his descent into drugs and madness in the early part of the 1980s.
Yeah, that's a good
Summary.
summary.
Thank you.
You read it off the DVD.
I did, yeah. Extemporaneous.
Yes. Okay, well, cool. I think we should start by talking about the characters, because, you know, Dirk Diggler, I mean, obviously he's the main character, and everything's kind of around him and his talent, as it is. But anyways, I feel like for character-wise, what really, the character I was attracted to for some reason was Roller Girl, played by Heather Graham. And I don't know why, but it's probably because she's kind of like the muse for the film in a sense. Like, she's so free. She, like, represents 70s free love, like, just childlike, and I think she's kind of like maybe the background of the film, but she also is like kind of the symbol as well, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And what I find fascinating about Roller Girl is that her journey is bookended by these two experiences of humiliation and degradation at the hands of this one boy.
Yep.
Right.
And it's really interesting how he comes back into her life at the very end, and how that is dealt with. But yes, she has an almost innocent quality, a kind of wide-eyed, sexually positive, acceptance, which is, the best part of what the free love.
Yeah, the 70s were,
late 70s were supposed to be about.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like that whole part where she has sex with Dirk for the first time, and she puts that roller skate song on, and then she just goes at it, and he's like, "Are you gonna take your skates off?" And she just gets really like, "No, I don't take my skates off."
That's right.
But yeah. So Mira, is there a character that kind of like stood out to you, or you felt attracted to?
There were two of them.
Okay.
I love anything Don Cheadle is in, and
Yes.
I love
Oh
Don Cheadle in this movie.
Goodness,
He was so fantastic. Just, he was just a guy, and he was hustling, and he was trying to sell his sound equipment, and he was going to make an honest living doing it, and he met a really great girl, and they were going to make a life together, and then he dies because he, in a very strange turn of events, happens to happen upon some money. He comes into some money, and it's a great. I feel like that is the most positive story that kind of comes through the film.
Agreed.
It's just a great like infusion of just positivity and light, and I think he's so great in it. And the other character that I loved was Amber Waves. I love Julianne Moore, and she does such a great job at. She just wanted to be a mother.
Right.
And she wanted to be a mother to Dirk. She wanted, in that Coke scene, wanted to be a mother to Roller Girl. And that scene where she's breaking down because she lost custody of her kid. I just think she does that so well. Just like broken women, but powerful women.
Exactly.
And you see her in the end, and she's a director. And you know she's going to be okay. So those were the two characters that resonated with me the most.
Right.
I loved them both. They were just great.
And something I like that the film does is, like, it brings different characters' situations together, like, coinciding. I think we see that more after, like, when things start getting hard in the 80s, like, Dirk is trying to make it in the rock scene, and then which is hilarious because he's actually a singer, Mark Wahlberg. So he probably had to make his voice really like crappy, for this part.
Right.
But anyways, just like I feel like as soon as things start turning, like Dirk's character, he kind of strays away from doing the porn stuff, jumps into singing. And then you see, like you were talking about with Don Cheadle, how he's just trying to make it, like, owning his own store with, like, this woman. And then you see their lives are kind of going in different directions, but they're, like, also, the way it's edited, it's just kind of, like,
and Don Cheadle's character, you can argue, his is, like, the only one that starts bad and goes, like, better. Like, it sort of starts out, like, he never really has, like, a bad part. Like, he just kind of, he suffers little minor bumps in the road. But his sort of intersects with when Mark Wahlberg's character is just at his lowest. Which is very interesting.
And I do like the way that we're introduced to all the characters. Like, I feel like Paul Thomas Anderson does a really good job with, like, the party scenes, like the opening scene when they're in the club, and you're just going to the different tables, seeing everybody dancing. Jeff, what do you think about those scenes where we kind of introduced to the characters?
Yeah, no, they're extraordinary. When I first saw Boogie Nights when it came out, I, to be honest, was not that impressed with it. I thought that it was a pale imitation of Scorsese without the dramatic weight behind the Scorsese film.
Yeah.
Most specifically, it seemed that there was shot after shot of Steadicam moving balletically through an environment, multiple characters interacting, a kind of trick shots that were multiple minutes long and amazingly choreographed. But I didn't feel a strong connection to it. But as I've come back to the film over the years, it has grown on me. And one of the main reasons I think it has grown on me is the strength and validity of all of the characters.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of the incredibly well-written script and the genius casting and phenomenal performances.
Yeah.
Every character from the smallest role, the entire technical crew that works with Jack on his films. You've got Kurt, played by the brilliant Ricky Jay, who's the photographer. You've got Little Bill, played by W.H. Macy, an amazing character.
Yeah, poor guy though.
But like all of these characters, they're indelible.
Yeah.
They stick with you. And of course, you've got Dirk and Roller Girl and Jack Horner, but then you've got these other characters like the Colonel, who's
Oh
a
my
fascinating man
Poor
in
Colonel.
his own way. Then you've got the other money man, Floyd, played by Philip Baker Hall.
Right.
You've got. I have to mention, if there's a favorite character that I have in Boogie Nights, it has to be Philip Seymour Hoffman as Scotty J.
Oh yeah.
His
Yes.
performance is a masterpiece of lust and wonder. And there's one particular close-up when Dirk is making his first scene with Amber, and the camera cuts to every member of the crew watching Dirk unveil his manhood, so to speak. And, some of the reactions are comical, like John C. Reilly tilts his head like a dog, and the cameraman, like, his mouth is agape. But Philip Seymour Hoffman, his heart is breaking, he's falling in love, he knows it's impossible, it's all happening at the same time, and you see all of these emotions cross his face. It's a masterful performance.
I mean,
and it's just, I was just going to say, it's such a loss. I'll just say, it was just...
Yes, R.I.P. Definitely.
No, I was going to say, when you're talking about how he's so good at, like, changing his emotions with his face and everything, the scene where he sees Dirk for the first time, when they do a close-up, like, across the pool.
There's even an iris in.
Yeah. He just gets so excited.
And when he buys the same car to impress him.
Oh my goodness.
It's just, he just loves Dirk so much.
I mean, he's like an awkward little teenager, which I know that's what he was going for, with like the clothes that didn't really fit and like the kind of insecurities.
But it's fascinating because this film ostensibly about pornography, it showcases all of these, this incredibly broad spectrum of male sexuality. I don't think a female experience of the characters is as developed or as broad.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah.
I would like to know a little bit more about how Roller Girl and Amber and I forget the name of the...
Becky.
Yeah.
Becky.
Yeah. And then the wife of...
Oh, the one who keeps getting caught by Bill Macy.
No.
Oh.
I'm talking about the wife of Don.
No,
Cheadle.
She's blonde.
Yeah.
The actress's name is Melora Hardin. I can't remember her character.
Yeah, but she was good.
She's great.
But you're right. I mean, the male characters are definitely more developed, and it's too bad, but I mean, it's...
Well, I think, Paul Thomas Anderson was 25 years old when he wrote the script.
This is his second film.
It's the second film he directed.
It's just like,
That's
come
incredible.
on.
Yeah. I also think, I know we might get into it in another section, but I definitely think a shout out needs to go to Robert Elswit, who was the cinematographer, who's responsible for the look and the direction of all of those gorgeous steady
That's
shots.
perfect that you started talking about that, because I actually wanted to get into the construction of the film.
Great. One of the things that I have found so remarkable rewatching the film in the past week is that there are so many of these kind of standalone set pieces that are, they could be mini films of their own. I'm thinking in particular of the donut shop scene with Don Cheadle.
Yeah.
And the entire sequence with Alfred Molina.
Oh my goodness, that's that's a terrifying scene, but I have to admit it's one of my favorites.
Yes,
because it's so off the wall, because you never know when those firecrackers are coming. You have no idea what's happening.
Exactly.
It's so many different things
tense.
at once. It is tense, but it's also hilarious.
It kind of made me think of Tarantino a bit, in the sense where he has these like random little scenes, like in Pulp Fiction, where it's like different parts that just come in, and they even did a little introduction before the scene where they go to the house. They said something. It was on the screen, and then.
It has a little title. I think it's Long Way Down.
Yeah, and I think it was like, this is going to be the bottom.
Right.
Because before it was pretty bad. Before that scene was the whole thing with Roller Girl, where she was kicking the shit out. Sorry, the crap out of the.
You can say it.
Sorry. Anyway.
Yeah, no. I mean, that scene that you're referring to is very specifically edited in with scenes of Dirk Diggler being beaten by the group of homophobes. Which is terrifying, but it shows, you know, the kind of desperation and violence that's behind all of this.
Yeah, and
liberation?
Right, and I want to go back really quick to that scene with Alfred Molina. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but when they're sitting on the couch, you know, just waiting, like, we're going to die, what's going to happen, we're hearing the firecrackers going. Mark Wahlberg, his face, for just like a minute, he's just like looking down.
I'm glad you brought that up, Rebecca, because that is my single favorite shot in the entire film.
Wow.
And I was just about to mention it.
Right.
That shot of Mark Wahlberg's face, his character redlines.
Yeah.
And you see, you know, it's like something out of, I don't know, A Clockwork Orange. It reminded me of Malcolm McDowell in A Clockwork Orange. You see his mind, like, just crumble.
Right.
And you've got the juxtaposition of the cheesy Rick Springfield, Jesse's Girl song playing over it.
Oh, my goodness.
You've got Alfred Molina smoking freebase, in the corner. You know, the little skinny Chinese boy lighting firecrackers and throwing them.
It's just so bizarre.
His large bodyguard without a shirt, but a
gun,
suit jacket.
like, hanging from him.
And apparently, you know, this guy, for being so menacing, and he's like the world's worst shot. I mean,
right.
You know, Todd takes him out in 30 seconds. So,
right.
Oh, Todd.
What happened to Todd?
I mean, it's just, you know, another, like, totally minor character, but completely original.
Exactly.
Who was that actor?
Thomas Jane.
I figured that was Thomas Jane,
Yeah.
and I was like, is that Thomas Jane? Because his facial hair confuses me. He was great. But that's the thing, like, no, it was such an economical movie in the sense that they didn't waste anybody. Everybody had a role to play, which is the mark, I think, of a good film.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the...
Yeah.
Well, and I was wanting to transition a little bit and talk about the music of the film, because obviously it's like a killer soundtrack.
Amazing use of music.
Yeah. And it just sets, like, besides like the pop songs, there was good, like, music score as well.
Yeah, done by Michael Penn,
Right.
who plays the engineer in the scene in the
Oh,
80s.
okay.
You
Yeah.
did your research before you came.
Good job. No, I mean, I don't know why they did this, but in the beginning, before the Boogie Nights thing flashes, and then they go into that one song, it's just black, and then you just hear like this music, like this score, and
It's like a film.
It's like an overture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
like
interesting.
Yeah. He is announcing that this is an epic story, that this is going to be something that's metaphorical, that has grand themes, and it's so assured.
Yeah.
It's so confident. Just starting with the meta moment of the title of the film on a marquee in this world that we're visiting, and then this very fluid, I think it might be 3 or 4 minute long tracking shot that has not a single edit, that just moves through this nightclub. It evokes, you know, the beginning of Orson Welles' Touch of Evil, where the camera's moving through all of these, you know, different environments. It introduces you to all the characters. It has elements of Scorsese's Goodfellas, of course, but it gives you an idea of the world that you're entering, and it shows you exactly what the first, say, hour of the film is going to be about.
Right, which is, again, the mark of a good film.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I also think that the pool scene is good too, like the party, the first pool party when Dirk meets everyone, and then that girl gets coked out, and they have to take her out the back, and there's a lot going on. I know.
Maybe it's, what does he say? Like, maybe it's
your shit. Or
Yeah,
maybe it's the stuff
Yeah, it's funny. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think about other stuff with the construction. I mean, the editing, obviously, we were talking about that. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I love paying attention to cinematography. It's something that I if I was good at it, maybe I would consider doing it, but
Right.
I don't have any experience. But the thing that I love about it is that sometimes you watch movies and it doesn't look like it takes place in the 70s or the 80s, but it has that very sort of muted, kind of dulled 70s look to it, like late 70s, early 80s look to it.
Uh-huh.
Everything looks, the houses look like they're in the 70s and 80s, the costumes, the hair, no one's too made up. I never really trust a film where it's sort of glossy in 70s and everything just sort of looks like a fun throw. It really looks like lived in, like these people are living these sort of seedy lives, and it really looks like it. And that's a big thing for me. Like, I find that when things are too pristine looking, it just doesn't.
It's not realistic.
Yeah, and I love
it's hard to
that
buy
I loved the. It's such a simple thing, but it's such a big thing. I loved the realism of it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. And speaking of costumes, that one costume with Roller Girl where she just like whips that stuff off, you know, it's just like, I guess she had to
Easy access.
Easy access.
Yep. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Anyways, I do think, I mean, we were talking about other directors like Scorsese and Tarantino, but Altman is all over this, you know, and I think it really, you see it in the big party scenes, you know. Also, I wanted to point this out, in Dirk's bedroom before he leaves home, when, you know, he unzips his pants, and then it goes, like, around his room really slowly.
Yeah, it does a 360,
and then
we see all the posters.
all the posters, and just, like, what makes up, you know, this guy. We got, you know, some Al Pacino, we got, you know,
Cheryl Teague.
right, but,
Corvette or something.
Mm-hmm.
Who's, oh my goodness.
Muhammad Ali?
No, not,
Bruce Lee?
yes, Bruce Lee. So, like,
Yeah, that's a big one for him.
I just, it's interesting, because I feel like you can learn a lot about the time that you're in just by looking at a teenager's wall.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to go too much into my teenage years, but I had Leonardo DiCaprio all over,
Amen,
Romeo, Juliet, like, all over the place. And then I had just, like, random magazine clippings of, like, Brad Pitt, hottest man alive, and then, you know...
No, I feel you.
Jennifer Aniston, I want her haircut. I'm just going to put her on the wall. Like, so lame, but,
and like you said, it does inform, like, who he is later on. You know, like, he does those action films, those action porn films.
Right.
Later. Like, he takes a lot of that stuff, and you see, well, the film takes it, and they sort of insert it into his life.
Yeah, no, that's true. And something about that, it was a difficult move for him, because he's like, I have to be violent with women now, because he was violent with women in that James Bondish porn character.
Brock Landers.
Brock Landers.
I couldn't remember.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting. Just how they had the interviews. Like, oh, I love that part when they have all the interviews after the Brock Landers movie comes out, and they're all like trying to defend it.
That's actually a documentary made by Amber Waves.
Yeah, that's when she first gets into directing. He's like, hey, I'm doing my Mark Wahlberg, but he's, hey, you're really good at this. Hey, like, you should consider this. And that's why it's so exciting when you see her in the end, like, directing that commercial for Don Cheadle.
I missed that.
Like, Buck's, what is it? What is the name of the store? Like, Buck's Fantastic Tube.
Buck's Super Discount Series.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
why. She was the one who made that, and so that's sort of the fun connection to see at the end.
Oh, okay.
Which is a great kind of introduction into talking about how this film kind of is also about filmmaking as well.
Right.
Totally.
Obviously, there's the plot element of the porn industry and Jack Horner, but I think there is a lot of play with the way that images are represented. You've got that behind the scenes documentary that Amber made that we talk about. We have Don Cheadle's commercial later in the film,
Right.
also directed by Amber. We've got the films that Dirk makes, which we only see tiny bits and pieces, but when we see them, they're in that sort of like grainy old film stock that if you have ever seen porn from the 70s, they all have that look, the kind of cheap sets, the flat acting that Julianne Moore just nailed so well.
Great.
And the kind of like cheesy synthesizer, supposedly sexy music that is its own genre in and of itself. But you've also got this story about the high production values and storylines of 70s porn being replaced by videotape, and Jack Horner's dream of making a film that'll make the audience stay after they've come is no longer relevant in a world where you have videotape compilations of loops of shots.
And I wonder if this is like PTA's. I wonder if this is like done what he really thinks. Like, is it done in like a positive way? Like, it's good that it's moving forward in other directions, or is it like he's making like a condemning it? Like,
I definitely think there's a condemnation.
Yeah.
But it's less political.
Yeah.
Like how dare this happen?
Right.
And we should rise up out of our seats and
accept it on
write our
film.
congressman. But I think it's more melancholy. Like this was a very specific time in pop culture and film history. There was this strange kind of pocket where films that were sexually explicit were considered mainstream.
Like
They had artistic merit. There was an industry kind of came up around it, and then it kind of did get destroyed by videotape. Yeah. And ironically, videotape got destroyed by the internet, and life goes on. But I think that there's something sincere in Jack, in Amber, in what they're trying to do, and I definitely think that Anderson respects that.
That they're both just like good, honest people, and they just want to make good, decent porn films.
Right. Yeah. Now the end result may be laughable.
Right.
Right.
Sort of like the Ed Wood. Of
that's a really excellent parallel actually, because especially Tim Burton's film Ed Wood, because they're all about these very passionate, creative people who are just not they're not transcending their own limitations.
Yeah, but no, I think that's exactly what it is. And I don't, you can say that sort of Burt Reynolds, any character like his character is sort of an opportunist, and he's sort of, and that's to be expected. But he really cared about Dirk. Like he accepts him back with open arms. They were such an odd family, but they were, and that's one of the big themes of the movie, I think, was about creating these families for yourself when you don't have one to go home to.
Oh, definitely. Right. And a very dramatic juxtaposition between Jack and Amber versus Dirk's actual parents.
Right. The mom was horrid.
A shrew.
Yeah.
But amazingly portrayed by Joanna Gleason.
Right.
Amazing performance. You hate her from the moment she enters the screen.
Oh my goodness, that one scene where she's just tearing everything off the walls. It's horrible.
Yeah, he really, But
so I think we're coming to the end, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do is, I guess, everyone say something that you feel like you got from this film, like just a general, like, what you took from it. which I know might be difficult, but just go off the top of your head. Like, for me, I probably, I saw Quality. Like Jeff, I saw this movie, like, forever ago. And when I saw it the first time, I was kind of like, I don't know, it wasn't, like, crazy about it.
Mm-hmm.
But then watching it recently, I don't know if movies have just not impressed me as much.
Probably it.
But it just is on a quality level, like, really high. And everything in this film, like the cinematography, the editing, the music, the characters, it's all magic. So I guess what I took from it is this is, I wouldn't say it's a magical film, but it's definitely a quality picture. So that would be my last observation. Jeff, do you want to step in?
Sure, yeah. I would, first and foremost, it's an extraordinarily entertaining film.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched it 3 times in the past week,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never been bored or, looking at my
Right.
phone or distracted or anything. It's delightful, and despite the fact that it's over 2.5 hours long, the pace never slackens.
Mm-hmm.
There's exciting and interesting scenes from the beginning all the way to the end, and it's an amazing film. What I took away from the experience of watching it in 2015 is how this is the beginning of Paul Thomas Anderson finding his voice.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
I'm not the world's biggest fan of his first film, which is called Heartache.
Yeah, I saw
It's
that.
a
I saw it was good.
drama about gamblers.
Right.
It has its fans. I'm not necessarily one of them. But I think starting with Boogie Nights, he began this pattern of challenging his audience with every film he makes afterwards. And for that reason alone, he's one of the more exciting directors who's working today. Even up until his last film, Inherent Vice, I am constantly questioning what I'm seeing and how I feel
Right.
about it. And he's a very unique director in that.
You always want to go back and you're like, maybe I should watch it again.
Especially
you
with
know?
The Master. That movie was just...
Yes, that's one of my favorites of his.
Yeah.
And what I would say about Paul Thomas Anderson is that generally, if there's a feeling that the film isn't as good as it could be, it's probably an issue of not understanding what he's going for, because he's just really phenomenal at not keeping it. He's really phenomenal at keeping an audience second guessing, and I gained a new respect for him seeing this earlier production of
Yeah,
his.
definitely. Yeah.
So I have a different experience with you guys on this. I saw this movie in college when I was going through I'd always been a fan of films, but in college I consider myself self-educated. I didn't really take a lot of classes, but I've read so much about film, and I sought this film out because I had seen a bunch of his prior work. I'd seen There Will Be Blood, I'd seen Punch Drunk Love, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like,
Uh-huh.
what's the big deal? And everyone says, see Boogie Nights, watch Boogie Nights. For like years, I heard, watch it. So I finally watched it in college when I was going through this big, like, film renaissance of myself. And I
Awesome.
watched it, and I loved it from the first time I saw it. I was like, holy crap, you guys. This movie's amazing. So I loved it from the beginning
That's
to end
great.
the first time I saw it. I just really, if you guys get to know, like, once you get to know me better, you'll realize, like, I fully connect to a film with characters. If it's not about character development, it's not I can deal with plot or whatever, but if I don't connect to a character, I'm not going to connect to the film. And I loved it. And so the takeaway for me is, like, as long as there's something to latch onto, some humanity in the film that I can latch onto, I'll love it. And I just loved... And I also do it based off of feeling. And if I'm hooked, I don't know.
No. They do
It's
a
hard
really
to
good job at
describe.
that. Yeah,
I love how
that's,
empathetic he is towards all his characters.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
There's no judgment.
No, it
Right.
it is what it is. And I said this in an email to you. but it just felt so seamless. Like it just flowed beautifully.
Yes.
It was such a joy to watch it unfold and to just go on this journey. So the takeaway
even the
is
tough
just,
parts,
it's like a modern masterpiece. Like it's I hate to like be so hyperbolic, but it just something about it grabs you and you just feel like you're different afterwards.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that now. I don't know why. I think for me, you said you were in your renaissance when you saw this. I saw this when I was not in a renaissance. Like I was like watching not movies like this, and I was younger. So, but now that I've seen a lot more mature, like quality films, I feel like I appreciate it more for some reason. But yeah, I guess that's it for our first podcast. Good job,
Thank you for
guys.
listening.
Yay,
And we'll see you for the next week for whatever movie that will be. So
hopefully it's Zodiac.
Yeah. Stay tuned. Okay. Bye.